the main points in the webinar which I aim to cover. The first one I would touch base on is the essential skills. As graduates, you're passing out in a couple of months or maybe a year. What are the core skills you could work on this year so that landing a job in India or abroad would be easy for you? So these are some skills I would say, which maybe couple of years back I did not do it in my final year, but I had to do it later, and that did delay, or that did impact my job search. And I think going forward, all of you students could make use of it. The first thing I would say is, while you're working, the final year could be intense. I understand you might have a research project submission, or a very tedious study life. I would say work on your resume and your LinkedIn profile. I think it's very important to have a resume which is very effective in terms of any recruiter looking at it and able to analyze and understand the skills you hold. And the second thing is your LinkedIn also duplicating your resume. Sometimes students will have resumes but not an updated LinkedIn profile. I would say both of this. You get ample amount of time during your final year. Whenever you get time, work on it. And if you have alumni who work in workplaces, organizations, corporates in India, you could always touch base with them and ask them to review your resume, because that way you also understand where you could improve, and definitely have your LinkedIn ready by the time you start looking for a job. The I would say the other thing connected to LinkedIn would be your networking skills. As a graduate, you might not know a lot of people in the um, HR field or social work field. The best way to do is LinkedIn search. I still use it till today. And I'll give you an example. So 2019 is when I moved to Australia. So I was moving in the month of February, and the 6 months before, I would send requests to all HR professionals in Australia sitting in Bangalore. Yeah. And the success rate was maybe 3 out of 10 would accept my request, and I would just chat with them saying, look, I'm a student coming into Australia, and I would love to connect with you for future opportunities. And that itself, so what happened, the first month I got 3, the second month I had 3 mutual connections for the next round. And that's how I by the end of I would say February, I already had 200 people in my HR network, and I had just landed in Australia. What helped me was connecting to them. I would ask them if they're free for a call, a chat. Here in Australia, it's a norm to go out for a coffee with a recruiter or a manager. Coffee culture is very high in Australia, so you could always say, "Can we meet up for a cup of coffee?" So. Transferring the same skills in India, you could just reach out to recruiters of the companies you like to work. Say, some people like to get into core corporate. They want to work in Deloitte, KPMG, or all of those. So you just reach out to the recruiters there and strike a conversation. I would not say you will get 100% success. There are times where the recruiter does not see, or he or she would have got n number of requests, but the potential or probability of it is that you will definitely make connections. And once you have those connections, you can always ask them to, if they have any opening in the specific organizations, you could always ask them about the role and everything, which would definitely give you an extra, I would say, extra notice while you're applying for the role. Yeah. So say someone comes to me, because I still, I don't handle recruitment, but I do have an overall oversight on it. There are times where some you know um, candidates would have reached out to me my LinkedIn as well, saying, hey, Akanksha, I've applied for this role in, say, Jewish Care or Era Life, just letting you know. And when I go back and see, I will definitely, when I get time, I will go check and, see the resume. If it sees fit, I would definitely ring up and have that initial conversation. So I would say networking is the biggest, skill you should have, and it starts now and it doesn't end. Throughout your career, networking will always give you a lot of benefits. To know people in the same field will help you, understand how the other roles are, other companies, cultures, pay parity, all of that. Networking definitely helps. I know that there are a couple of, in India, there are also HR events which happens. I'm not sure how it is in, Bhopal, but in Christ and in Bangalore, we had the, regional HR professionals meet. So I had signed up for that. And then, I would attend these events. It would be in one of the weekends, evenings. And, once we start attending, we would just strike up a conversation, say, I'm new to HR field, lovely, and then lovely to meet you and everything. Talk about yourself, your interests, and also ask if someone's willing to be your mentor, because having a mentor, especially once you've graduated, will help you, refine your skills and prepare you for your professional life. So networking skills, LinkedIn, and resume preparation should be your top priority in your final year. Apart from this, I would say working on your communication skills and also workplace communication etiquette. I'll give you some examples. With my, I've seen my juniors and some of the interns I have mentored. So communication skills, I would I would emphasize this because in any workplace, it's very direct. And also how in, universities, you say Richie ma'am, Akanksha ma'am. Once you move to corporate, there's no ma'am, sir, everything. So you move completely. So you need to know how to be very respectful in your communication, how to use please, kindly, and apologize if something is wrong, own up to it, be accountable. I think that those three words will take you a long road, yeah, in a good way. So always know how to write emails. So I had an intern who would just say, do this, and then send it to me. And my manager took offense of it, saying, why are you asking me to do it? It was the other way around. The manager was asking, but then the intern meant, can you review this, or can you please review and share feedback? So from do this or is this right and a question mark to can you please review and send feedback is, you know it's two ends of the spectrum. So it means a lot when you write it in a professional way. And if you write it like this, it will seem very, very rude. And also they would think, why is he being so rude to me? I also had another experience. In my last previous workplace, I had an Asian colleague. Yeah, he was from China, and his parents had already moved to Australia. So he again Asians. I think in terms of how they speak, it's very direct. So he would never use please, kindly, and he would keep getting escalated because he would just forget to use those simple words when he's talking to his stakeholders, and the stakeholders always had issues with them, and he would keep getting into trouble. I joined after him, so he told me this so and so person is very rude, very troublesome. And my first email to them, they welcomed me and then said, let's go for a coffee. And this Asian colleague was surprised how things changed and why are they being so sweet to you. Only once I started working with him did I realize that his communication was like this. He would just say, get this done, and then thanks, so and so. And that would not work because the manager also would have, miscommunication. So I would say working on your workplace communication etiquette is very, very important. Learn how to write emails. Yeah. how to use words in reports analysis. And in today's era, we didn't have chat gpt and all of it. You guys are blessed to have it to get more information. Yeah, so you can always write down in chat gpt, give me a hr report on a turnover for a company. And because there's so much data, you can always get one and understand the language they use. It need not be complex. I'm not asking you to use complicated words, and where it has to be like the highest proficiency of english. It is more being professional. Yeah, so workplace communication etiquette is very important, and always be confident. um, One more thing I would say, in I think which has changed my way of communication, it was when I was in India, I would not talk to a lot, like even in classes and everything. I was more on the listening end and wait for everything and talk. Whereas the contrary was in Australia. If you don't talk in the classes, they would not give us marks. So we had marks for interactions, and we had to be bold enough to talk and give opinions, but very respectfully, not to be rude or anything. So I think, and all the workplace organizations are changing. The cultures are also adapting. I would say, whenever you talk to your colleagues or your manager, be very polite but still assertive. I would say that is one of the other communication skill which is very important, and which will again give keep you in the good books with everyone. Yeah. And the third most important thing, the essential skills, I would say, is your technological skills. Say for I'll give you examples as HR graduates and as also social work. Knowing Excel skills is very important in both the ends. Being a social worker or a HR graduate, Excel skills, having them will take you to a good place, because knowing VLOOKUPs, H lookups are very important in any report making or any data. Say you have two files. I have all the students with addresses in one file, and I have all the students and email addresses in one file. I need now one file with both combined. How would you do it in a VLOOKUP? And how, say you have 1,000 students data list, it would take you so much time to just do it manually, but knowing that VLOOKUP will get it to you in like 2 seconds. Yeah. So when we work in HR field, we do a lot of reports, communications, sending all when we have COVID-19 outbreaks, we had to send one email to a special home. That home has about 60 staff members. How would I immediately get 60 people's email addresses? Is through Excel. So through VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP, and also knowing how to do your graphs, pivot tables, be it your pie chart, line graph, all of them will definitely help you. As simple as have a you can do your assignments where you take up an organization, do a case study, and also show what all these skills. Like you could make a graph of how, say, Uber was or Ola was in India a couple of years back, and today a lot of mini startups are being taken over because they pay more for the drive auto drivers or taxi drivers. So you can say, here's the gradual change in the culture of using Ola, Uber to some other company. So I would say technical skills, Excel is one, primary one. The other one would be your HRIS for HR graduates. What is an HRIS? Human Resource Info Systems. These are systems we use to manage our HR operations. Some of the most common, HRIS used across India, APAC, Australia, India, all fall under APAC. So would be Oracle, SAP. You might have all heard SAP because it's very prominently used. The other one would be Workday. So all these are, HRISs which are used from different companies. So say Oracle obviously could have used Oracle, but IBM might use Workday. Atkins, when I was in India, they had Oracle, but we moved to Workday. So all these systems have these end-to-end HR operations in that system. It helps us get the data easily, feed the data in, and manage all the operations in one system. Yeah. So the similar way for social work students, we have different case management tools. I don't know much about the case management used in India, but in Australia we have CaseWorks, CompliSpace, and all of these are again systems which help manage your cases. So understanding, I wouldn't say you have to do costly certifications, but knowing what an HRIS is or a case management tool will be definitely beneficial. And there are few of the systems which you could Google or check in YouTube how it works, and that way you could always get a hang of how these HRIS or case management tools are used, because that also helps you get brownie points, I would say, while you're interviewing for a position, because a person who is knowledgeable about the systems will definitely have a bit more advantage to someone who does not know anything about HRIS. And majority of the systems today use HRIS across different sectors, be it education or hospital or aged care. All of the systems, we have different systems to use, but all the sectors use them, and it's definitely something I think all of you graduates should know about to understand what an HRIS is and how processes work. And one more I would say for HR students, if you're into recruitment or if you're interested in recruitment, then we have the ATS, which is an applicant tracking system. What an applicant tracking system does is when you apply on their portal, the applicant tracking system takes the resume, does the first search, and then puts it up to a recruiter. And throughout, scheduling interviews and sending offer, that tracking system works. So knowing, your different ATSs also help if you're interested in the recruitment field. So these were the primary skills, I would say, which will definitely help you in terms of prepping you for the career aspect of your HR or social work. And all these are transferable skills. So be it in social work field, in clinical or community field as well, or in your corporate HR, IR, sector, wherever you go, all these skills are necessary. And I would like to then move on to the career opportunities. So in Australia, we have governing bodies for both social work and um, HR. Yeah. So for social work, we have the Australian Association of Social Workers. It's called AASW. It is the professional body for social workers in Australia. So say you would like to, you worked for 3-4 years in India as a social worker, you have some experience now and you would like to move to Australia. So you then get your whole portfolio assessed by this AASW, and based on that you could apply for a permanent residency here. So in Australia, social work is a very I would say lucrative job role, yeah, and also very less occupied in terms of people doing social work. It's if you see in India social worker, everyone will question what is that, or some people might think you're someone who's just helping people out is a social worker because you're helping some people out in your community or something. But here it's a fully fledged job which is very very respected. Yeah. And in Australia, social work applies in lot of streams, contrary to India. So you have your aged care, where we liaise with a social worker for getting resident into one of our aged care homes. So each individual will have a social worker of their own. So they will come help us in, if a person was doing okay but had a fall, yeah, then the social worker representing him would then reanalyze, so he gets better benefits from the government, and we help him in terms of taking care and everything. So for people who don't have a lot of families to support and everything, that's when a social worker comes into place. So this is how it is in aged care. Again, in healthcare, similar. We have social workers in child and family. Yeah. So this is where they work to help rehome a child if they have a very abusive family culture, or if they have lost their parents in an unfortunate accident. A social worker comes into picture, tries to find the best home or foster system for them, so in child and family. And also social workers work in rehabilitation. Yeah. While Australia has had a very I would say positive image, there are places in Australia which are very remote, filled with people who are in victims of domestic violence, drug abuse. If you see more aboriginals, yeah, the original people of Australia, they're based in Northern Territory and somewhere in the regional areas. There's high amount of domestic violence, drug abuse, substance abuse, and all of that. And even in your regular CBD, central business districts, you can see homeless people, and a lot of people who are, due to varied situations, they're all out there without any home support or anything. So social workers do take care of a lot of them as well. Some of them are illegally here, so they don't get any support. But for Australian citizens, there will be a government nominated social worker who will try to get the best out of the situation and the resources available. Yeah. And so then the community and all of those roles are there. If you don't like so much being on the field, then you have the policy making and the administration roles in social work as well. So where you work as an administrator to a lot of caseworkers, you manage and see the influx of how many cases we have, we manage all that. And also in terms of policy analysts, where you work in a company to or government to build better policies. Yeah. So these are some of the roles we have in Australia. And coming to HR, I started here from scratch. Even though I had experience, something about Australia is that you need to have Australian experience. So I went back to starting from a HR administrator. Um, Although with my experience and the way I grabbed opportunities, I moved up the ladder very quickly. But it is something where, a lot of people expect you to understand the Australian workforce. The most important being the employment law in Australia. The awards and the legislations are some something which you have to know to work in Australian workplace, because any unfair dismissal or unfair workplace practices could land us into the court, where I as an HR have to stand there and actually prove that we had a very fair process, or else we would have a lot of hefty fine to pay. So in but not to scare, but all employees usually give you that prep and training. It could be gradually there, but always it'll be there. um, as an HR, you could start in HR operations. Yeah, you could start as an HR coordinator, HR administrator. In learning and development, you start as learning development coordinator. This is where you work with the learning portfolio. So you work on creating learning portfolios for each of the staff or employee sections, and then you have your recruitment, so you can either do talent acquisition coordinator, recruitment coordinator, and then you move up the ladder. You can be a manager, a business partner, and you go on. So HR as well, there is vivid opportunities here. The only thing I would say is that in for HR as well, there is a professional body called the Australian HR Institute. It's called the RE, where the H is silent, so it's RE, and you have courses and certifications in RE and also mentorship programs. I myself have participated in that while I was studying here. I got a mentor who was already working here for some 20 odd years, had the opportunity to learn some things, get my resume reviewed, do mock interviews, which really helped me prep for my roles. Yeah. So both social work and HR do have professional bodies with support, and you have to be a member with some amount of fees. But coming to getting these international opportunities, there are few ways to come into Australia. One, through the way I came in, I did my higher studies. So that is one way where you could take up a additional, like pursue a master's or even a PhD. For graduates who are really interested in academics, I would say there's amazing opportunities here to study and do your PhD and work as well as a teaching assistant. Lot of the top 8 universities um, give you a good amount of scholarship. Your entire, if you do a PhD or master's by coursework, which is equivalent to your MPhil in India, if you do those two courses, you get your entire academic fees as scholarship, and also you will get some amount of stipend on a monthly basis throughout your 3 or 4 years of your coursework. Yeah. So if you do your MPhil, then it is calculated as 1 year of your PhD when you move ahead to PhD. So that also is a very good way. And I see a lot of students come in to do PhD and research. The second way would be to look for opportunities across Australia. Maybe Sydney and Melbourne are a bit full threshold in terms of job opportunities for newcomers, especially from India internationally, because you need a lot of sponsorship and everything. But if you see states like Western Australia, Tasmania, all these states do have employer sponsorship. So you could work in Tasmania as a HR coordinator or a HR administrator, and the employer will sponsor you for 2 years. You come in here, you work, and after 2 years you can either choose to renew it, or you could go back to India, or you could apply for permanent residency, like how it is in Canada. Here also, the permanent residency is based out of points. They are not that lenient as Canada here, so it takes a lot of years of work and waiting and patience to get that. I wouldn't want to give you false impression that getting a PR in Australia or New Zealand, for that matter, is easy. It is not. But now there are a lot of temporary ways to come into Australia, get that exposure, and see if you like the way of living here. Australia, culturally, I would say Australia is very different to how our Asian countries are. So people here work 7.5 hours, and after 5 o'clock, no one is available unless someone is a workaholic. Not a lot of people are contactable after work, and they take it as an offense if you contact them. So 5 o'clock checkout is 5 o'clock checkout. They are only available next day at 9 o'clock. So work-life balance is very, very crucial here in Australia, and people expect you. It's a basic expectation that everyone knows that and respects that. Yeah. And the second thing is being on time is very, very necessary. They think, being even a minute late is, a negative impression in Australia. So irrespective, traffic, tram, whatever it is, they don't take that as an excuse. It's just how people are. They value time. So it's very direct, but they expect punctuality. So one cultural difference I had was coming from Bangalore, where every time I'm late 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and now it's changed so much that when I come back to Bangalore and meet my friends, I'm there 15 minutes early and they come one hour later, thinking it's a normal practice. But I think living and working in Australia has definitely changed my way. We are always there 5 minutes before in a meeting, even if it's an online meeting. And if we are running late, we try to always communicate why, what happened, and everything. And so these are some cultural differences as well when I came in here. So understanding the cultural you know etiquettes of a country is also important. So, and also the same opportunities exist not only in Australia as well as New Zealand. It's a similar country. It's more beautiful in terms of the mountains and the nature aspect. But the I think the population would be a little less, but the governing laws and all are similar. They might have different bodies, but it's the similar way. And also, it's Australia, New Zealand are all queen countries. So understanding how one country works would help you the entire of Europe as well. Um, because I usually you know study trends of employment and everything, Ireland as well has a lot of opportunities for Indians, especially. Sweden and Ireland are another two countries which I think, if not Australia, I would suggest that. So I would say the first thing is to look out for opportunities in the country you wish to work. Build up connections on who the recruiters are and everything, and then try applying and also ask for feedback. If you have an interview which has crossed 2 3 rounds, most of the recruiters here in Australia will always give you a feedback, because after the initial round or the second round, the third or fourth round would only have 2 or 3 people. So it's worthwhile asking them for feedback so that you could get better at it and be successful at a role. So these are some career opportunities. I would say in temporary basis, you look for an employer who's willing to sponsor. You could always once you're here, there are ample opportunities to crack into. You could volunteer into the similar roles. You could also participate in networking events. There are a lot of them just for job seekers, international job seekers. So that way. And the third way is, if you are really passionate about pursuing academically in PhD or MPhil, Australia, New Zealand, all of these countries have ample amount of resources, and they're looking out for researchers on day-to-day basis. So if you're keen to enter into Australia, these are some of the ways. But once you're here, as I said, LinkedIn, networking are all same transferable skills, which helped me get my first role. I didn't know anyone in Australia in terms of family or anyone. I came here and I just did what everyone told me to do, and I tried experimenting. And I would say, in terms of experience, my first role was just a 1 month contract. While I got my HR role, I was still doing my waitress role in a pancake parlor. So I used to work 9 to 5, go back and do an evening shift, because that was more stable for me then than my HR, because it was just a contract. But my contract role went so well. The person the recruiter who gave me that contract got me the next opportunity, and then I moved on. So it's just about doing well in your role, which is I think a solid success mantra everywhere in India or in Australia. You do your job well and you just reach out, network. And I think HR or a social worker field is such that networking is the core of it. So you network to get opportunities, get other sorts of resources for your client or any such thing. So I would say these are the skills and the opportunities you have for Australia and a bit of New Zealand as well. And now I'm open to questions. Hope I covered everything, Professor Richie.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your lovely experience with all of us today. the different practices that we have in Australia, how the laws differ over there, and whatever are the essential skills that are required, particularly in terms of networking, building the LinkedIn profile, taking reviews from the seniors, to resume preparation, communication skills, wherein we should be keeping in mind cross cultural communication and etiquettes, how we should be aware about the technological proficiencies which are required to enter into the field of human resources, for enlightening us with the career opportunities that are available, the bodies that the students can apply to, those who are willing to move to Australia, and the different sectors which are open to them in terms of education as well as employment. So now we are open to questions, and if anybody is having any question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or else you can post it in the chat box.
Hello.
Yes, Anjana.
Okay, first of all, thank you, ma'am, for sharing your experiences. So, ma'am, I just want to know procedures to getting admission in PhD in Australia, and which all are the best universities that I can do my PhD in Australia.
So, Anjana, if you Google the Group 8 universities in Australia, you'll have the University of Melbourne, University of Sydney, Australian National University, which is in Canberra, and 5 other more. And what you could do is, if you have interest in a specific area of research, you reach out with a brief summary of your research and your proposal to the professors of this similar portfolio. So I would say I think the best part for you here is that when you go into the website, you have all the professor details and their existing works. If you look into each of it, you can always send them an email, and then they will get back to you if they are interested in it, or else usually they also get back to you with the right person. Say if you have reached out to a professor who works in international global HR, but you want to do something about social work, they usually give you the contact of the actual professor who's actually interested. So that's the way out. Start Googling with all the universities, and majority of the universities here provide scholarships for PhDs. So you Google your area of study, and then you can start off with it.
We have a question in the chat.
Yeah,
By Ensat Azhar, if I'm pronouncing correct. Thank you for sharing your experience. My question is how to get a job visa as a social worker in Australia, and what are the requirements? Can you briefly explain it?
So in Australian workplace, how in India we use Naukri and Monster.com, here we use Seek. So using Seek, look out for roles in, say, Western Australia, Perth, more into Tasmania and all these states. You can always apply to them as well. Yeah, and also get your assessment from AASW, so the Australian Association of Social Workers. That will definitely help amp up your profile. Yeah, I would say as a graduate, it might be a little hard, but getting a couple of years of experience will definitely help you gain unemployment here. And also there are ways of permanent residency. So for social workers, there are more opportunities to get your PR immediately. As being in India, you can apply and then you can come here and start work. So that is, again, you have to, for that also you have to get your AASW assessment. In that, they have to come up with saying so and so person is a skilled social worker. Once you get that, you get certain amount of points and you can apply. So I would say get couple of years of experience, and then get your skills assessed, and then you can reach out to a migration agent as well for a bit of help on your building your portfolio.
Any further questions from anybody? You can unmute and ask.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi,
please.
Piyush.
Ma'am, what is the scope of working there in Australia in context to community development?
There is a great scope, Piyush. Like I said, there are communities in terms of the Aboriginal group, especially where they do a lot of communities. They have a lot of community social workers, and also in childcare because of families with single parents or parents who are not able to manage the raising a kid because of their own personal issues, health issues, or substance dependency. There are a lot of roles and scope of growth for community social workers, and I think that's the most I would say prevalent social worker roles in Australia which you can see.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is another question coming in the chat. Ma'am, what is the scope of HR in hospital settings?
Anjana, the HR in hospital setting would be similar to my role. So, like in aged care, we manage, end to end from recruitment to HR operations to, uh, you know, managing performance appraisals, and everything in a hospital sector as well. The only addition would be that you will have, um, GPs and the doctors, general physicians, and everyone. And I think hospital is a bit more, I would say, fast paced in terms of, um, the HR operations and everything. And also, it will be intensive role, like in because hospitals are in and out systems, whereas aged care is a bit more permanent kind of setting. The hospital would be just a little more intense, but it's a similar portfolio, like how I explained my day in a HRBP role is.
Any further questions from the participants? You can post in the chat or you can unmute and ask.
Opportunities relating to UNHCR, we do have a lot of opportunities, but I don't know how easy it is to crack into that sector, because we do have refugees coming in from a lot of places. Australia is always extending their hand in terms of helping refugees. We recently, because of the whole Israel thing, we had a lot of people from Israel and Jerusalem move into Australia. I know this because I used to work in Jewish, aged care before, and we had tie up with the government where we would give some opportunities to people who were from Jerusalem and everywhere. We would train them in English and try to get them a food service assistant role or anything to just start off with, and then may probably transfer their skills. There are ample amount of opportunities, but unfortunately, I am not sure how easy it is to crack with. I think it requires a lot of years of experience working in the similar sector to move into Australia.
Okay. Akansha, I also had a question. So generally, it is like in India, there is a focus on field work, and there is a prerequisite of field work which the outside countries expect. So, is
Yeah.
there any such norm which is there in Australia also, that these many hours of field work should be there if in case you're applying for a job?
I think it would be more like years of experience more than hours of field work. I think once you have graduated, they look at years of experience in terms of the role we ask for. Specific to field work for a specific role, I think it depends on which kind of role you're looking at, Professor, because if it is something in administration or any of that, they don't require a lot of specific field work hours. But I think while you get your, so even to get in move your skills, I think the Australian Association of Social Work will definitely ask you for a number of hours pertaining to the level you're doing. So even in sorry, I didn't touch base on this, but there are different levels of social work certifications you have. So it's a registered social worker or a a senior social worker. So based on the level you're applying, there are some criterias you have to meet to get the certification and assessment done. And I think looking up ASW in detail would definitely help you understand and apply for it.
Thank you. Anybody else with any further questions?
Ma'am, I have one more question. So, conducted your social work in HR and also you are now doing as an HR process. So, can you please differentiate what is the difference between MBA HR and MSW HR?
I think my MSW HR was more in terms of IRER. So I had a lot of exposure to unions and also the policies in India for employment relations and all of that. And my other degree was in Masters of Science Human Resource Management, which focused on international practices. Obviously, I did have one coursework of employment law, which again is IRER potentially here. But I had more in terms of policy creations, international global practices, creating memorandums, and we had like very industrial based, assignments and coursework. So all our coursework was on managing different kinds of, say, if we have employees who have performance issues, how would you deal with it? What are the criteria, what are the different um, theories you would apply to understand why this person is not performing or anything like that? So I think the major difference for me was my social work degree got me a lot of experience in IRER, and the other aspects was covered majorly in the other degree. Also because in Christ it was more Indian based degree, whereas in RMIT obviously it was Australian laws and the workplace um, whatever procedures they follow. So that was the major difference. But overall I don't think there's a lot of difference as well. I mean, our Indian university degrees are as good as the degrees outside, but just that I think the opportunities are there, but are not lot of people know about the opportunities we have.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think we will be closing now with the question answer round. Thank you, Ms. Akansha. Your insights have been incredibly valuable, and I'm sure our participants are now better equipped to navigate the international landscape of social work careers. Thank you to all the participants for your active participation and thoughtful questions. As we wrap up the first half of today's webinar, on behalf of BSSS, I would like to take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt thanks to Ms. Akansha Nagesh Subramaniam for her time and expertise. Your experience in HR and social work and the international career pathways you have shared have been truly enlightening. We are deeply grateful for your time and contributions today, and I'm sure everyone is leaving with a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. I would also like to acknowledge and thank the College Management and Social Work Department of the Bhopal School of Social Sciences for organizing this event, and a special thanks to our technical team for ensuring everything ran smoothly. I thank all the attendees for their virtual presence and participation. We hope this webinar has inspired you to explore the global opportunities that a career in social work offers in Australia. For the second session, we all can be back by 6 p.m. to listen to another expert who will be joining us from Ontario. Thank you once again. Yes. Thank you once again. Hoping to see you in the second session. All participants are required to exit the meet. We will meet again at 6 p.m. Thank you once again.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Akansha.
हेलो भाई, हेलो।
you.